everyone, welcome back to Pwn TV. Sorry it's been a while since I've actually uploaded anything, but I've been really busy outside of YouTube, so I apologize for that. I got something fresh for you guys. I haven't posted any Magic the Gathering on my channel in a while, and so I thought that I would take another look at my Magic the Gathering deck in real life and make some changes to it based on the updated ban list for the game. And that's what I came up with. So I went ahead and slapped it together here on Octagon, basically one for one. Everything that I have on paper, I put here. So I actually own all these cards. Yeah, it's an expensive deck to say the least. So I'll just give you a quick glance. This is basically on Octagon. I didn't download the image files for the cards, just what the cards actually did. So like the game properties of the cards I have, but not the actual artwork. So it's basically a bunch of blanks, and it's not the easiest thing to actually basically know right away, oh, that's a Street Wraith. Oh, this is a Cabal Therapy, whatever. But basically, the deck is trying to just reanimate. It's called Tinfins, based off of the C-Lab 2021 meme that was made so long ago, maybe 8, 9 years ago now, which was called Tinfins as well, off of that. So I made that deck list that I saw originate back in the day, and I've been tweaking it ever since. So I just always call it 10 fins, but this is probably like version 12 or 13, honestly. Like, yeah, it's gone through a lot of different 60 card lists that were really, really good, in my opinion. And some of the original cards from the original 10 fins list that I saw, and all of the other variants that I saw from back in the day, and also the ones that are recently coming out. I still don't agree with all of their lists. Honestly, I think my list is really strong. And I don't run things like Limdul's Vault because it takes too fucking long to resolve. With that said, though, I am playing a combo Johnny deck that basically wants to sit there and take forever to resolve everything. But that really just depends on my opponent. I'll offer the handshake at any point. Like, if they wanna shake hands, then we'll shake hands. But basically, I'm not gonna go over, since there's no artwork. There's really no point in me just looking at all the pictures on all the cards there. But the idea in general is I'm gonna play esper colors, which is white, blue, and black. I'm gonna draw a bunch of cards with my blue and my black sources. I'm going to combo out by generating a lot of black mana with dark ritual, and then I'm going to also entomb to drop any card I want in my graveyard. And then after I've done that, I'm going to use the rest of my floating mana to, off like the Dark Ritual for instance, to reanimate whatever it is that's there with any number of reanimate spells that I use, which includes reanimate. In this particular list, I took the reanimate out actually, but that has yet to be relevant. Mostly, what is it? Goryo's Vengeance, and I just had the name of the other one on my tip of my tongue here. Where was it? I'm gonna slap myself when I find out the name of that card. I swear to God. Dark Ritual, Entomb, Shallowgrave. Oh, that's what it is. Shallowgrave. Where is Shallowgrave? Yeah, Shallowgrave. Okay, I had a brain fart. Anyway, so that's basically what we're doing. We're just gonna reanimate all that shit. It's quite fun to do it, and what I like the most about this deck is that I can play it an infinite number of times, and it seems to me like there's an infinite number of ways to combo to kill the opponent with a Tendrils of Agony or an Emrakul. Like, that's basically how you kill the opponent in this deck, with one of those two things, and there's just so many different ways to do it, and there's so many different variables you have to keep track of in the game. I'll just demonstrate a quick gameplay, basically me goldfishing against no opponent, just to kind of show you how the deck combos out, and just some of the different paths you can take as you get different cards, different combinations of different cards. It gets pretty wild. So here I'm looking at a reanimate spell and a bunch of mana and another reanimate spell and a draw card. And yeah, so there's no entomb in my hand. So if I were to keep this, I would struggle to find the entomb, which is the one card I need to actually win. So like in a heartbeat, without the entomb in my opening 7, I'm gonna mulligan. You have to mulligan for the entomb. So that's unfortunate that I got that I didn't get the entomb there. And honestly, if your opponent is playing Tinfins or any variant of this deck or any combo deck, when they take their mulligan, don't give them the free one. And if you're playing the deck, don't expect a free mulligan. You're gonna draw 6 cards the next time because you're literally trying to find your combo pieces to kill me before I can play the game. Nah, I'm the kind of guy that I'll mulligan down and I won't even offer to go back up to 7 because if I'm gonna lose the game, I'm gonna lose the game. And it's looking like after this mulligan, I'm just going to lose the game, right? Because I don't have the entomb still. So even still, I would mulligan 5 and then go down. I would go from 6 to 5. Sure. So we'll do that. I'll go down to 5 cards. Since it is a combo deck, I'm not always going to get the exact combo I need. So let's see, what do we have? We have the entomb. So that's combo piece number 1. That's priority numero uno. So you just snap keep once you see the entomb. But then you see some of the other, I can already tell that this is going to be a god hand. Then you see some of the other choices that you get in addition to entomb. What are the other combo pieces you need to win? You need Dark Ritual, Entomb, Shallow Grave. There's the Entomb, there's the Dark Ritual, there's the fucking Shallow Grave. So I mulligan to 5, and I got my God Hand. I have a draw 1 for whatever reason and a land. So that's the God Hand. And honestly, you guys, everyone that plays this deck tells me that it's lame because it's not consistent. And I literally just showed you on take fucking 1. I literally haven't been recording this all day. I literally just got this idea in my head and just decided, you know what, let's go ahead and record it and see how consistent it is. Take 1, mulligan, mulligan again, start to sweat because I don't see anything, and then God Hand. And then fucking God Hand. And if you didn't get a God Hand here, you could mulligan to 4, because technically you don't even need this card. This card's garbage. Get out of here. You don't even need that. You just need those 4 cards. You just need an energy, or a mana, excuse me, I still have Dragon Ball brain. Yeah, you need your mana source, and you need this combo right here, and then you're good. So here's how you play it. You basically play your land for turn, and then you follow the instructions on that card. It says tap, pay a life. So we'll actually pay a life. We start at 20. We'll adjust our life counter to 19, and we'll also keep track of the life paid for the duration of the turn here in the general box. So we're going to pay 1 life. We're going to sack this card so it goes to the graveyard, and we're going to go find a plains or a swamp. You can already kind of tell that this is going to be nuts, right? So I'm just going to leave this this library open and revealed right now because I'm going to dig through it a whole bunch of times. So for the first time that I dig through it, I'm going to go get my black and my blue source, or black and white. It doesn't matter because I'm about to tap it. It could just be a basic swamp, honestly. But I have a number of underground seas in the deck. I play 3 underground seas in this list. So I'm just going to go ahead and play that. Off of the pay 1 life Marsh Flats. Seems like a legal play. And then after that, I'm going to tap it for a black, and then I'm going to use the Dark Ritual. So let's just close this out of the way for now. I'm going to use the Dark Ritual. So when I cast that, I generate, basically I gain 1 black for the land, and then I pay the black to pay the cost of Dark Ritual. And then when Dark Ritual resolves, right, not only have I incremented my storm counter by 1, so I'll just keep track of that over here in this experience box, but also I gain 3 black off the Dark Ritual. Like, it's an OG Magic the Gathering card. It is Black's original instant, and it's just, I don't think they're ever going to ban it, but they banned the blue one, so they'll probably one day ban Dark Ritual. It's not legal in anything else. It's only legal in Legacy and Vintage. Other Eternal formats don't get it, like Modern. I don't think you can play Dark Ritual in Modern. Pretty sure it's going to be permabanned. Anyway, back on track. Dark Ritual OP, right? I have 3 black in my mana pool right now. So the way this game works is I have all of my entire main phase to make decisions on what cards to play in my hand, and I can just float the mana in the meantime while I'm not like in between card casts, spell casts. So that's what we'll do here. I'll actually just decrement my my black by 1, and I'll pay the cost for Entomb. So we'll cast that, and assuming the opponent doesn't have a way out of it, I'm just going to win this turn because I have 2 black floating to pay the cost for Shallow Grave. So anything I grab off the Entomb, I could just play it with haste for the duration of the turn and get the effects, the full effects of that card. So we run Gristlebrand. So what Entomb's going to allow me to do is it's going to search my library for a Gristlebrand card, put it in my graveyard, and then shuffle. So we'll do that. And that's why I haven't shuffled yet, because I'm just going to keep looking through this anyway. So we're going to look for Gristlebrand, wherever he is. He's the 8/8, so I know these pictures don't have artwork on them because I didn't download the image packs. I just downloaded the rules, like I said. The game description of the Gristlebrand is here, but not the artwork. So that's fine. There he is. He's there. So basically, what we're gonna do is after we resolve Entomb, we put the Gristlebrand in the graveyard, and then after that, we use the other 2 black after we increment our storm counter by 1, because we need to keep track of that. We're going to use the 2 black that we had floating to use the shallow grave, also incrementing the storm counter by 1. Okay? So at that point, we're in a good spot, because now we get to take the Gristlebrand and play it with haste, because shallow grave says return the top Gristlebrand of your graveyard to the battlefield. That creature gains haste until the end of turn. Exile it at the beginning of the next end step, which is the end of turn, basically. So that allows us to play the Gristlebrand. And since we played the Gristlebrand, we win the game. So at this point, we offered the handshake. Honestly, if we just entomb Gristlebrand, we can show him the shallow grave. Like, usually games only get this far. Like, when I entomb the Gristlebrand, and then while I'm digging through my library, I just show them I'm about to actually cast shallow grave on Gristlebrand, they just scoop because they lose at that point. Like, I'll show you how it works. Usually they lose. You can still fizzle out. It's a small chance, but maybe 1% of the time when you're digging through, you'll have a really bad, unlucky draw 7 back to back, and depending on what else you did for that turn and how many turns that had gone by already before you got to this god turn, then yeah, you might just not be able to win. But in most cases, you do win when this happens because you can activate his effect. No problem. So he says, pay 7 life, draw 7 cards. He also has flying and lifelink. And since I can shallow grave at instant speed, I can actually block with this guy if they swing. I could reanimate him with Entomb, that's an instant. Shallow grave, that's an instant. I could just create a flying lifelink blocker as you attack me on your turn, having done nothing on my turn, just for the fun of it, honestly. Like, if if I just want, he tapped out. Oh, he's swinging a fucking Tarmogoyf. Oh, okay. Instant speed, blah, 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 Gristlebrand. Like, I win now. Offer handshake. So yeah, so what we're going to do here is we're going to just resolve him turn 1. They haven't even gotten their first turn of the game yet. We started. This is turn 1. So we're going to take our turn 1 now. So we're going to pay the 7 life. So life goes from 19 down to 12, right? Yeah, that's math. That's how math works. And then we're going to also gain the life paid for the turn is going to go up to 8 from 1 because we fetched and we paid 7, so that's 8 total life paid. And then we're going to draw 7. We're just going to draw 7. Depending on what 7 these are, we can just win right now. So the first thing we need to really look for if we're tapped out is, yeah, it's great that I got a Dark Ritual off the top 7, but I really need this Lotus Petal, which fortunately I got because I'm a master at playing Tinfins. So there it is. There's the Lotus Petal. So now I can just crack it to pay the cost for another Dark Ritual, but don't forget that you casted Lotus Petal, so it actually went here first, and when it was on the stack, it also incremented Storm by 1, so just keep that in mind. That might be relevant for when I play Tendrils of Agony, wherever that, oh, there it is. There it is! Great! Okay, so at this point, what do you do? Honestly, like, you want to draw as many cards as possible. Like, if you're going to win this turn with Tendrils of Agony before you ever attack them, if you need to attack them to draw 7 more cards because you get that lifelink 7, that's fine. That will also help your Tendrils play in some cases, but I just want to kill them before I ever leave main phase. Like, the same turn that I played the original Dark Rit, that's the turn, that's the phase, the same phase that I did that, that's the phase of the game I just want to end the game and never go to the next phase. That's fine, if possible. Like, that's the styly way to go out. Otherwise, it's just going to be, Emrakul will smash you in the face with Annihilator 6 like that. That would be pretty sweet too. But there are options, and that's what I love the most about this deck. Like, I'm having so much fun, and I'm still in the very first turn, very first main phase of the very first turn of the game, and I'm still trying to figure out what number of ways do I want to kill the opponent this game. How do I want to do it this time? So, I guess, guess paying 7 is always the best way to go. So just coming from an experienced player, I'll just do that again. I'll go from 12 down to 5. I don't think you have a way to do anything about that because it's still the very first turn of the game, right? So that's 12 down to 6, down to 5. That's 7 life. And then I'll go up to 15 life paid for the duration of the turn right here. Okay, great. Isn't that right? 8, yeah, 5, okay, 15, great, okay. And then I'm just gonna draw 7 more cards. I want to see more stuff. I really want to see more mana and cast more spells. So hopefully more Lotus Petals. Oh, I'm not supposed to look, actually. I'm supposed to just draw. Okay, so let's just draw 7 more cards, get 7 more cards in our hand. Okay, what did we get this time? Oh, another Lotus Petal. Hello, that's great. Okay, we'll increment Storm by 1 again. It costs 0 to play Lotus Petal, but you're still casting it. So you still increment Storm. And it basically plus ones your mana for the turn because it sits there until you activate it, and you can sack it for like a black to pay the Dark Ritual cost. After you've already tapped out to do all of this, like you're still able to generate more black, and so the Dark Rits you draw into you could still use, and that's what I like the most about this deck. So these lands are dead right now. I mean, they can't do anything because we've already played our land for turn. So that's all just dead cards. Like the opponent doesn't know that though. The opponent doesn't know how many lands I have in my hand. For all the opponent knows, I have like 8 Force of Wills in my hand at the moment. Okay, like so seriously, like you have all the control here. Like honestly, if they still aren't shaking your hand, I don't know what they're doing. But basically, this is what we'll do. I see the Gristlebrand is in my hand. I see the reanimate spell for another card. I haven't seen Children of Corliss, and I haven't seen the entomb yet, right? So honestly, the best thing that I can do is, since I'm at 5, is probably play a ponder or a brainstorm. And honestly, I don't have a way to shuffle, so Brainstorm's a bad play because I don't have a fetch land I can crack to shuffle away the dead cards that I put on back of my deck on the top of my deck. So Brainstorm's probably a bad play, but Ponder would be pretty good. And since we have two different Lotus Petals here, I could just do that. So I'd sack this for blue, and so that gets burned, and we add a blue to our mana pool, easy peasy. And then we use that blue to actually play this Ponder right here. And so we're going to increment Storm by 1, get rid of the blue mana, and then resolve Ponder. So look at the top 3 cards of my library, then put them back on the top in any order. Then I can choose to shuffle, or I can choose to leave them on the top 3 on top like I stacked them. And then after I do all that, I can draw 1 card. So we'll do that and draw 1 card. So top 3 to actually stack. Whoops, that's the top 7. Top 3 to actually stack. Okay, top 3. Alright, so I have a Shallow Grave, I have a Cabal Therapy, I have a Mars Flats. Okay, so technically I could play this Gristlebrand, but that doesn't do anything for me since they're legendary. That doesn't make any sense. If this was Children of Corliss or Emrakul, though, I could actually play the Brainstorm and do the Shallow Grave play that I want to. Because what I would do is I would grab that copy of Cabal Therapy, since I don't currently have a discard spell, and I could use this Cabal Therapy targeting myself, and I would just name Emrakul the Aeon's Torn, and so I would be forced to discard my own Emrakul the Aeon's Torn after I revealed my hand to, I suppose, everyone or myself, whatever the case is. I would basically be able to pitch that card, and then I could reanimate it at instant speed before it has a chance to shuffle my graveyard back in the library. That's how that works, and then I'll have an Emrakul with haste in play in addition to the Gristlebrand, and then I can proceed to combat, and then just present another handshake. Like honestly, like I could just do that. That would be one way to go. But because we don't have the Emrakul yet, we can't make that play. So this is actually a pretty bad Ponder because the 1 creature card I have is just another copy of Gristlebrand. So that is not a good Ponder. But it might not matter because our Storm counter is getting pretty high at this point. So we might still be in a good position. Right? So honestly, I guess since I have the Shallow Grave or the Goryo's Vengeance already, I think the right play here is to just shuffle with this. So I'll do that, and I'll just draw 1. What did I get? I got a Street Wraith. Okay, so I can pay 2 life to draw a card because that's basically Gitaxian Probe replacement. So I'll actually cast this guy. I don't know if it's actually technically a cast when you activate cycling, but I'm just going to assume so. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm going to increment Storm there anyway, because Gataxian Probe would have incremented Storm there, and I'm salty about the ban. But yeah, so we're doing that and paying 2 life, and life paid for the turn is actually 17 now. So that will allow us to draw one more card. So we'll discard this card and we'll draw this card. And that's a land, so that is triggering because I was really hoping that wouldn't be a land. Yeah, so we're in a bit of a pickle here because we have to enter combat to deal damage to draw more cards. Otherwise, we have to find a way to kill them with what we have. And it looks to me like I have no physical way to cast Tendrils of Agony for lethal with this particular hand that I have here. So really what I need is an entomb or something to play the Children of Corliss. Now, in a professional match, if I were playing this particular hand in a professional match, I'm not doing it like I normally would because I just want to show you guys the interactions and I'm just getting unlucky on the draws. But in a professional match, I would already know that I have 7 haste flying lifelink on the board, so that needs to be taken into consideration when I calculate the Tendrils of Agony damage, and so I would just assume the opponent is at 20 minus 7, which is 13. So I would go into combat knowing the opponent's probably just going to be 7 less life than they actually have, which means that I can tendrils before combat and then do some stuff, like if I need to. So I could do that now before I would have, honestly, I would have had to do it before I sacked the other Lotus Petal. With the 2 Lotus Petals that I had, I could have simply just paid the 4 for tendrils because Dark Ritual is 3, and then I need 1 more, so that would be 4. So, but I didn't make that play, so I can't just do that now. But that is one way I would have been able to kill the opponent that has already passed, because at the time it would have been like Storm at 5, I think, and then you've got a tendrils for another one, so that's 12 damage probably. That's almost 13. Like, you really just need to get to the 13 and then hit them with 7 from Gristlebrand, and that would be really, really nasty, easy way to kill them. But honestly, at this point, my tendrils is hitting for 7 times 2, which is 14, pretty sure. So that's not quite lethal. And I can't physically cast it now that I've sacked that Lotus Petal, like I mentioned. So I'm in an awkward situation where I guess in order to continue this particular turn, I have to swing at them, which sucks because now I can just rule out my Emrakul play. I mean, that happens a lot when I actually play this deck against people. I don't always get the Emrakul play, but honestly, we're already on the Tendrils play, so all I really need now is just another mana source, and I can Tendrils them for lethal. So yeah, I mean, this is the only way that I have to kill the opponent. And also, I think it's the safer way, to be honest, because I know that they can't stop the damage if the damage has already gone through, you know what I mean? Like, if I just assume, oh, he can't stop Gristlebrand, I'll just tendrils him, and then they're like, Swords to Plowshares, Gristlebrand, or something like that can happen, so that would suck, because then my tendrils is basically all for naught. But not necessarily so, because you also have to consider that if you when you target them and they lose 2, you're also gaining 2 each time that the storm is procced, so like, Tendrils of Agony is going to gain 2, and then since you casted 7 other spells before this one, you're going to gain 2 for each of those 7 spells, so that's 14, right? That's how I got that number earlier. 2 times whatever your storm counter is basically how this works, plus the Tendrils damage itself. So it's lethal in most cases. After the Grizzlebrand swing is definitely going to be lethal in most cases because the storm is for the duration of the turn, not for the duration of the phase. Like, even though we left main phase 1, we might have emptied our mana pool there. Fine, whatever. That's not relevant like at all ever in any game. But the storm counter is still there for the duration of the turn. So I can go to main phase 2 and I can just end them with Tendrils of Agony. And so that's the plan. So we'll actually go ahead and hit them, and we'll go up to 10 because you have the lifelink. So even if they, let's be real, like, if they blew me out with the Swords of Plowshares, that's a moot point, because in this case, I'm just showing you how the combo works. So let's just assume that they didn't have an answer, alright? And Flying Lifelink is just brutal on turn 1 when you have no cards in hand, and it's still my very first turn of the game, so you have no energy, no mana to play any cards either. So yeah, like, in some games, you might not be able to do this. I'm not saying Grizzlebrand has a 100% win rate, but I'm pretty sure if you haven't even been able to play a single card, I'm pretty sure this is just happening, bro. Okay. Oh, you don't have a force of will? Okay, it's just happening. All right, so we're gonna just do this. We're gonna gain 7 life. So that's great. We gained 7 life. Great. Okay, so now we're gonna pay 7 life and draw 7 cards. So the life paid for the turn goes up. So 17 plus 7 is 24. So there you go. And then we're going to go back down to 3 on our life total and be like, okay, 7 more cards in hand. Now, in most games, guys, if you're drawing 7 cards right here, you're going to get the card that you need. And I did get it. There are some times where with 30 cards left in the deck, you just didn't see it. But in most cases, since all of the cards you need are playsets, when you've dug halfway through your deck, literally half, this is a 60 card list and I only have 30 left in my library, so I'm definitely halfway through the deck. You've seen it. You've seen a copy of what you need. And you've definitely, more often than not, you've also seen a second copy of what you need. In this case, we've seen 3 copies of Dark Ritual so far, so that's actually extremely good. But if we didn't see the 3rd copy of Dark Ritual, it would be kind of a bit of an awkward situation to be in, because I mean, I need the 3 mana, I need 1 more mana, and if I'm not able to find it with like a Lotus Petal or a Dark Ritual, it's painful. But because we run playsets of all that shit, like, we just have so many ways to get mana, so we're good. We're honestly really good here. Not a problem. So we still have the 1 Lotus Petal left, so the right play is to just go ahead and use this guy and then cast this Dark Ritual that we just drew, right? So that is going to pay the Lotus Petal cost. We're going to zero out our mana pool for the Lotus Petal that we were floating when we floated to black, and we're going to increment Storm. And when this Dark Ritual resolves, which of course all of our spells are resolving because it's still the very first turn of the game, Dark Ritual resolves, adds 3. We're going to go ahead and use one of the 3 that we have floating to play another Dark Ritual. We're going to increment Storm again, and then that Dark Ritual is also going to go to the graveyard, but it's going to give us that 3, and that's 5 now that we have available. That's what 2 Dark Rituals do to your mana pool. They make it 5. So I could just play the tendrils and win, but I don't see any other styly plays, so that might just be all we can do. Honestly, I'm at 3 though, so I could play the Street Wraith just for funsies. I could just be like, okay, Gitaxian Probe slash Street Wraith, pay 2 life, draw another card. Like, I could just do that, and I got an Entomb this time, so that's fancy. But I don't have any white, so that might not be a problem though, honestly, because I have 5 floating. Yeah, so we can just draw the game out if we really want to, and that's why I like this deck so much, honestly. Like, there's just so many ways to keep going with the combo. So at this point, we just simply resolved our draw 1 off of Street Wraith, right? So we paid 2 more life. Let's increment that. So this is accurate. We're at 1 life with 5 mana floating, and we have 26 life paid for the turn. And if you count Street Wraith as a storm counter, or whatever, then we increment Storm. Okay. Storm's basically lethal at this point. If not, I can make it lethal with more spells, obviously. There's always more spells with this deck, and that's why I like it so much. I can just kill the opponent now, or I could just keep comboing until I'm bored, or he's bored. I mean, honestly, at this point, I'm just trying to entertain my opponent before I kill him. And then I just play tendrils, and you just die. I just show you the tendrils, and then I just continue to play Magic with myself. Like I'll just show you this tendrils, and I'll reserve 4 mana for that, and then I'll continue playing against myself with this deck, because that's how broken it is. Tendrils will kill them, because I mean, it's 2 times 10 at this point, or 11 or whatever. So like, yeah, that's more than 20 life, which is your starting life total. They haven't even started the game yet. They're just holding their cards, waiting for me to pass to them, and I just say take 20 damage and just die. Like with tendrils, tendrils are just gonna do that. Like at this point, I could just do that, or or I can continue to play Magic the Gathering. So since I got this other Entomb, it changes things a little bit. I can actually use the one of the 5 black that I have floating, and then play the Entomb and increment my Storm counter. And then I can actually Entomb Children of Corliss this time. And that lets me reset everything. Since I can reset everything, I can keep going every time. So I'm gonna put Children of Corliss in my graveyard. Okay, and so what he basically says is I gain life equal to the life lost. All right, for the turn, for the whole duration of the turn. So Children of Corliss is in my graveyard. I'll just pay 2 more to use any one of these reanimate spells. Honestly, at this point. So what do I have? Goryo's Vengeance. That's only for legends. Shallow Grave will work. So I'll just use Shallow Grave. Again, the original list was running Reanimate. Maybe I'll put it back in, but in this list I'm not running it. So I'm just using Shallow Grave, and that's the only way to grab Children of Corliss. If you just have Goryo's Vengeance, you can't grab it, because Goryo's Vengeance says return target legendary creature, and Children of Corliss is not a legendary creature. Grizzlebrand is, but Children of Corliss is not. He's the only non-legendary creature in the deck. I mean, other than Street Wraith, but you don't really count that. But you do have to keep that in mind, because Street Wraith is a creature. Gitaxian Probe wasn't a creature, so this was never an issue with that list. But since the Gitaxian Probe ban, I added creature versions of Gitaxian Probe to the deck. So now when I use this particular reanimate spell, Shallow Grave, what that does is that can very well sometimes put the Street Wraith into play instead of the Gitaxian, instead of the Children of Corliss. But I'm being cautious of that, so in this case, I definitely put the Children of Corliss in my graveyard after I had already put the Street Wraith there. So he is on top, and then, technically the Entomb is on top of him. Okay, because that resolved after I placed him there. And so technically when I cast the Shallow Grave, I increment Storm. I already brought myself down to 2 black mana, and then I resolve. And then I technically at this point Shallow Grave is on the stack, so that's where that card physically is in relation to all the other zones in the game. Oh, I didn't mean to hide that. Okay, so now we look at the top card. We get the top creature card, which in fact is Children of Corliss at this point. Right. And I shuffled that, but I really shouldn't have shuffled that. So I basically just threw the game. You don't shuffle your graveyard in this game, guys. Don't do it. You'll get banned. They will kick you out of the entire room. I'm just sitting here shuffling my graveyard. No big deal, right? There's nothing like Shallow Grave in this format. Don't do it. Don't do it. Okay, so Children of Corliss is now played, right? He's just simply played because Shallow Grave says that creature gains haste. Put him into the battlefield with haste. Okay, he gets exiled at end of turn. Again, these are both going to get exiled at end of turn, but we haven't gotten there yet. We're still in main phase 2, and we're still going to continue killing the opponent in our main phase 2. And if we were really good and got really lucky, then we could have just done it all in main phase 1. But we weren't, so we have to go to main phase 2 to do it, and that's fine, because now we have the rest of the combo, and that is simply Children of Corliss. So all I have to do is activate Children of Corliss. There's no way you can respond to it, because I just do this. Honestly, you never have priority. If anyone says they have priority at any point when you're doing this, tell them to fuck off, that they are wrong, because the way that the steps go on the stack is you go Entomb. Entomb is on the stack. Children of Corliss goes to the graveyard. Children of Corliss is the top creature card in the graveyard at this point. Entomb resolves, goes to the graveyard. At that point, you use your other mana to play your Shallow Grave. You resolve Shallow Grave. It is on the stack. While it's resolving, it returns the creature to the battlefield with haste. And then it goes to the graveyard. So at that point, your graveyard is Shallow Grave on top of Entomb, on top of what was Children of Corliss, which is no longer there, on top of whatever else you played before that. Okay, so that is how the graveyard looks, and the Children of Corliss is in play. And when you resolved, when you put when your opponent allowed Shallow Grave to resolve and play Children of Corliss, the motions that the game went through are, okay, priority, opponent pass priority to you, or pass priority on the spell, and so now the spell is resolving because all priority has been passed on the spell. So now that the priority has been passed, when is the next time you can cast any instant as the opponent? You have to wait for priority. Okay, so at this point, Shallow Grave is in the graveyard. At this point, the opponent has to wait for priority. Even though there is a Children of Corliss in play, priority doesn't get passed at any point. I could sit here and count my cards, all like 20 of them. I could just sit here and look at them and think of my plays and think of how I want to make the next thing that happen in the game. That's when the priority gets passed, not any point before that. So if I go Shallow Grave and you say, oh, that's great, Swords to Plowshares your guy. No, that's not how this works. Okay, Children of Corliss is in play. No one has priority except for the active player. at this point. Shallow grave is in the graveyard. Active player still has priority. Priority does not shift. Priority still not shifting. We could sit here and have a cup of coffee together and you could just talk to me. But if you try to cast an instant, I'm going to tell you to wait for priority. You don't have priority. Now I'm going to look at my Children Recoilless and realize that there's a fleck of dust or whatever on the corner. So I'm going to blow that off really quick. And meanwhile, you don't get priority for that either. You just wait for me to finish doing what I need to do. And then when I finally decide that I want to sacrifice Children Recoilless to gain life equal to the life lost, now you have priority. But guess where Children Recoilless is when I activate this ability? He's in the graveyard. Because it says sacrifice Children Recoilless to activate. The colon is after Children Recoilless, which means that the way this card functions is the next thing that gets put on the stack that anyone has priority to is the effect after you killed Children. Children Recoilless is already dead, bro. He's not there anymore. He fucking seppuku'd that shit, dude. He's gone. He's fucking gone, okay? He's not there. He's not a legal target at this point. But what's on the stack is you gain life equal to the life you've lost for the turn. That's on the stack. So have fun looking at your Path to Exile, your Swords of Plowshares. You have priority. I'm passing priority officially. Go ahead. Children of Corliss is no longer a legal target because he's not in play. Okay. So can you stop the effect that I just put on the stack after I killed Children of Corliss? No? Okay, well, it looks to me like I lost 26 life this turn. So I'm going to go ahead and still tell you that I've lost 26 life, and the next time that this happens, I'm going to gain another 26 life. But yeah, so we'll just raise our life total to 27. That checks out because 7 lifelink off of the Gristlebrand and you start at 20. So that's perfect math. We've not made any play mistakes yet. I mean, that's I don't think that that's an accurate statement because this game should have been over by now. But you see how the game can go on and on and on to infinity at this point because of just the motions and the way that you play Children of Corliss and the way that you play the other 28 cards of your library here. Like, I mean, it's not a problem. You have 28 cards in your library, so you just pay 7 up to 4 times, and on the 4th time you'll go to 0 cards in deck and die. So don't do that. Don't go to 0 cards in your library because that would be an epic throw. And this is actually divisible by 7 because it's 28. So that's don't do that many times, right? But what you'll do is you'll just draw the top 7, and at this point you really don't even really need to keep track of any numbers. I just drew 70 cards, so I just lost the game. GG. You see how the game is played, though? Like, there's any number of cards left in your library, and eventually you draw into things like Emrakul, which will allow you, even in main phase 2, you can still make this good. Like, you can still keep going in main phase 2, because what you can do is, since your Lotus Petals are all sacked, and they're all in the graveyard at this point, your Dark Rituals are all in the graveyard at this point, Children of Corliss is in the graveyard at this point, even though they were played with haste and they're supposed to be exiled at end of turn, we haven't gotten there, and since they left play, they're no longer legal targets for that delayed trigger, so the delayed trigger actually counters itself. It fizzles out because there's no legal target at this point. We've sacked Children of Corliss. He's no longer a battle card. He's no longer a creature on the battlefield, so we can't be exiled at end of turn. So he's still in my graveyard and throughout main phase 2, and the moment that I have the combo available where I can go ahead and entomb Emrakul, what this allows me to do, if I have any mana left over at all to continue playing stuff, great, because I can just keep going on to infinity. Emrakul is basically going to say, okay, when he's put in the graveyard from anywhere, including the top of the deck or entomb effect, whatever, then the owner of that graveyard has to shuffle their library. Their graveyard has to go into their library, and it all gets shuffled together. So Emrakul basically says pick up all your graveyard cards, including Emrakul, shuffle them all back into your library the moment that he touches graveyard. But that uses the stack because it's a trigger when it's put in the graveyard from anywhere. That's the trigger. So since it's on the stack, I can respond to it with instants. I could reanimate whatever I want at instant speed with this deck while that trigger's on the stack. Or I could just let that trigger resolve and put all of my cards back in my deck and then continue to draw more cards with Gristlebrand since I'm at 27 life again. And then I can continue to keep track of all the life that I've paid for the turn, which compounds onto that 26 that I've already paid for the turn. and then get another Children Recoilless, and then I've paid like 50 life for the turn, so I'm gonna gain 50 life off the Children when I seppuku him, right? Like that's how that works. Eventually, I get to the point where I'm just bored, and I use tendrils to kill you with 4 black. That's or I have infinite of every color, and then I decide to just use 4 of it to kill you with tendrils for infinite damage because I've probably casted infinite spells at this point, and that's what Tinfins does, and that's why I love this deck so much. It's so much fun for the person that's playing it, but also anyone who's watching it being played, because there's just so many ways you can go, and I just love watching people pilot it because I see things that they might not see right away, and I'm just like, oh man, if he did that right now, that would be insane. But then he does another combo, and I was like, oh shit, I didn't even think about that. Oh my god, there's so many decisions. Anyway, that's it for the video. I hope you had fun watching me pilot my legacy deck. This is Tinfins, a reference to the C-Lab 2021 cartoon from back in the day, and this is my favorite legacy deck. It's the legacy deck that I own. It's in my pocket right now, and I will play it anytime anyone challenges me to a game of Magic. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.